Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Can I get your attention here at the front? Good evening. Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to be joined by our honored speakers, Chargé d'Affaires Michael Ratney, the Prime Minister of the State of Israel, Naftali Bennet, and the Chairman of the U.S. House of Representatives Foreign Affairs Committee, Gregory Meeks. Okay, while our speakers get seated, let me wish everyone a good evening. My name is Jonathan Schreier. I'm the Deputy Chief of Mission of the U.S. Embassy, Jerusalem. And it's my honor this evening to kick off our official celebration of the 245th Independence Day of the United States of America. We're so grateful to those of you who've joined us here in person, and I also want to give a big shout out to those of us who are joining us from afar on our live stream. Hi, Mom. As we begin our ceremony, please rise with me for our Marine Security Guards presentation of the colors. Next, I'm pleased to welcome the Jerusalem Youth Chorus. The Jerusalem Youth Chorus is a choral and dialogue program for Israeli and Palestinian youth in Jerusalem. Their mission is to provide a space for these young people from East and West Jerusalem to grow together in song and dialogue. Through the co-creation of music and the sharing of stories, they empower youth in Jerusalem with their responsibility to speak and sing their truths as they become leaders in their communities and inspire singers and listeners around the world to work for peace, justice, inclusion, and equality.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched, where so gallantly
Thank you. Now, please join me in giving a warm welcome to the U.S. Embassy's very own Doron Cohen, who has been with the embassy for 11 years and singing professionally for over 7 years. He will now sing the Israeli national anthem, Hatikva. Thank you, Doron. Our Marine security guards will now retire the colors. I'm now delighted to introduce our Chargé d'Affaires at U.S. Embassy Jerusalem, Mr. Michael Ratney. An experienced diplomat, Chargé Ratney has served most recently as the Dean of the School of Language Studies at the State Department's Foreign Service Institute. But he's also extremely well-schooled in the language of diplomacy and in the dealings in this region, having served as Deputy Assistant Secretary for the Levant and Israel and Palestinian Affairs, as well as Special Envoy for Syria. Chargé Ratney.
Thank you, Jonathan. And good evening to everyone, and welcome to the American Embassy in Jerusalem. It occurs to me that many of you may never have actually been here before, so I hope your visit tonight reassures you that this is actually a very real place. And I need to start by answering the question that might be on everyone's mind right now, which is, where is everybody? I've been to a few of these July 4th receptions before at the U.S. Embassy, and it's usually a carnival with thousands of people and fireworks. Well, the reality is that we began planning this event, and we couldn't be exactly sure where we would be with the COVID pandemic. So like the government of Israel, we took a fairly cautious approach. And I have to say, just as I started feeling guilty that we didn't opt for the gigantic event, we were reminded that the pandemic is not completely behind us. So we opted for this miniaturized version with just a few hundred folks in person, but we are live streaming the event. And to those of you who are watching from home, I want to thank you for joining us, even virtually, to celebrate America's birthday. We promise that next year, with the pandemic firmly behind us, and I expect a new U.S. ambassador firmly in place in Jerusalem, we'll be back to our traditional event, and we'll look forward to seeing you, all of you, as we celebrate the 4th of July. So, as Chargé of the U.S. Embassy here in Jerusalem, I may be here for just a few months, but it's a real treat to host our Independence Day event, whatever the size. And it's a great pleasure and honor to welcome all of our very distinguished guests, the ministers of the new Israeli government, members of the Knesset, foreign ambassadors, some of whom braved the traffic from Tel Aviv, and some of whom are now living and working right here in Jerusalem alongside the United States. President Reuven Rivlin visited us just a few minutes ago. For 7 years, Reuven Rivlin served as the vital embodiment of the enduring partnership between the United States and Israel, and as a powerful voice for coexistence inside of Israel. And I was honored that he would take a moment during what was his last full day in office as the President of Israel to pay us a visit. We all owe him an extraordinary debt of gratitude for his friendship and for his leadership and for his extraordinary statesmanship. I'd also like to congratulate President-elect Isaac Herzog on his election as Israel's 11th president, and I look forward to being at his swearing-in ceremony tomorrow representing the United States. Throughout his career, Isaac Herzog has demonstrated an unwavering commitment to strengthening Israel's security, to advancing dialogue, and to building bridges across the great Jewish diaspora. We know, as President Biden said recently, that under President Isaac Herzog's presidency, the partnership between Israel and the United States will continue to grow and to deepen and to prosper. And of course, Prime Minister Naftali Bennet, welcome to you, and once again, congratulations on forming your new government. There have certainly been a lot of changes in Israel recently, and I must say also a lot of changes in Washington. But it's reassuring to see that one of the constants is a rock-solid U.S.-Israel partnership across nearly all sectors of our society. We know that you and your entire government will be great partners as we enter a period that inevitably brings both opportunities and risks. So thank you very much for joining us this evening. It's also a great pleasure that we have a bipartisan congressional delegation led by Chairman Gregory Meeks from the House Foreign Affairs Committee with us in Israel this week and among us this evening. Mr. Chairman, allow me to say welcome to Israel and to the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem. The visit of your delegation is a testament to the strong bipartisan support that Israel has long enjoyed in the United States. And of course, among you tonight are many of my colleagues from the U.S. Embassy, and they are just an awesome team. They are keeping this big mission running. Together with our Israeli partners, they're keeping us all safe. They live and work and breathe every day in every sector this relationship, from politics and finance to commerce and the media, and of course, in security. And they look after the huge community of American citizens here, and they facilitate the travel of many, many thousands of Israelis to the United States. So if you see any of them tonight, give them a big thanks. And I should say, please rest assured that they really are working on that backlog of passports and visas you all keep reminding me about. Now, over the past weekend, people all across the United States gathered with friends and with family to celebrate America's Independence Day. For many, it felt like a breath of fresh air, a real in-person gathering after over a year when that sort of thing was exceedingly rare. And I would say a breath of fresh air is what I feel tonight, and I'm glad we're all here. I'm glad we can see each other in person, maybe shake each other's hands for the first time in a long time, and maybe feel some hope that the pandemic will soon be truly behind us. Now, as we put the pandemic behind us and begin to look ahead, let me say something that I hope is obvious, that Israel has no better friend than the United States. We've been partners since Israel's birth, and we've faced challenges together for many, many decades. The U.S. has stood with Israel in times of celebration and in times of danger. And we've stood with Israel and continue to stand as it confronts threats to its security and to our own. We stand with Israel in our determination that Iran must not obtain a nuclear weapon, in our determination to face threats to peace and stability that Iran poses in this region and beyond. The U.S. commitment to Israel's security remains unwavering, but our partnership goes far deeper and far broader still. We stand with Israel in our pursuit of technological innovation, in our embrace of entrepreneurship, in the integration of our economies. We stand with Israel as new diplomatic bonds are forged in this region and beyond, and as Israel gains recognition and enjoys partnership from countries once regarded as adversaries. And we stand with Israel as we work towards a more peaceful, secure, and prosperous future for all the people of this region, from its farthest reaches to as close as your Palestinian neighbors in the West Bank and Gaza. Today, Israel joins us in celebrating America's 245th birthday. And no surprise, our country looks quite different than it did 245 years ago. In 1776, our founding fathers embarked on a remarkable experiment, envisioning a land where all people are created equal, where every citizen is endowed by their Creator with unalienable rights, including life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I have to say that to my ear, That sounds a bit like Israel's own Declaration of Independence, which sought to create a country based on freedom and justice and peace, as envisioned by the prophets of Israel. It's worth remembering that what America's founders sought was not perfection, but to be better, to be more perfect. A more perfect union, in the words of our Constitution. To pursue a more perfect union means we acknowledge our imperfections, and we face our challenges bravely and openly. Let me give you a great example. 87 years after our Declaration of Independence was signed, President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation to abolish slavery. And yet it wasn't until 2.5 years later, on June 19, 1865, that his notice of freedom finally reached the last enslaved Americans then living in Texas. And from this year, we now celebrate that day as a national holiday, and we call it Juneteenth. And it's come to mark not only the end of slavery in America, but a recognition that while freedom and justice may have been delayed for too many and for far too long, it remains our ideal. It's a recognition that we seek not perfection, but hopefully every day to be a bit more perfect. 5 years from now, on July 4th, 2026, we'll celebrate the 250th anniversary of the independence of the United States of America. And today, we begin that celebration and invite all Americans and all our friends abroad to help honor our past and shape our future. And we look forward to celebrating that day with what will then be a 78-year-old Israel. And I expect that on that day, our friendship and our partnership will be stronger still. I expect that the challenges we face will face bravely, and while perhaps none of us will have achieved perfection, we will be standing together closer and stronger, more secure and more prosperous, more just and more equal, and hopefully a bit more perfect. So thank you, everyone, and may God bless Israel, and may God bless the United States of America.
Thank you. It is now my distinct privilege to welcome Prime Minister Naftali Bennet, who is coming here to the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem for the first time in his new role. Prime Minister Bennet's life experience embodies the close ties of family, of economy, and of shared values that knit together the United States and Israel. Prime Minister Bennet.
Yeah, change is in the air, and it's looking good. Chargé d'affaires, my friend Michael Ratney, the team here in the American Embassy, Congressman and the delegation, distinguished guests, my friends all. It's a very touching moment for me, I have to tell you. I still remember the bicentennial coins. Do you remember there was a quarter, bicentennial? I was then about 4 years old, and I remember the Pledge of Allegiance every morning at school in America. My mom and dad both were born, raised in San Francisco. They came to age in the 50s and 60s. One of the things that I'm most proud of my dad, may he rest in peace, my dad, Jim Bennett, was arrested by San Francisco police in a sit-in in a San Francisco hotel that would not hire black people. And I was always proud of my dad for fighting for his principles. Walking down to the Brooklyn Bridge to see the fireworks on 4th of July. I was there in 2001. That was before 9/11, but the year after, and through the tumultuous times. So I really feel at home over here. And we are here in Jerusalem, Israel's eternal capital. I'm not sure if you know, there's something common between Jerusalem and Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C., if if I remember, doesn't belong to any state. It's beyond. Jerusalem was founded precisely because it didn't belong to any of the tribes, right? Jerusalem was founded after the entrance of the Jews into the land of Israel. So every tribe sort of found their place. Jerusalem was exterritorial, and Washington, D.C. is what? David's capital, right? Washington, D.C. and District of Columbia. On behalf of the people of Israel, I'd like to wish all of you a very happy Independence Day. Indeed, 245 years ago, the founding fathers of the United States of America put down those amazing words. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And this proclamation went down and has echoed down generations, inspiring people all around the world to follow in the footsteps of America's founders. As the Chargé d'Affaires mentioned, our own Declaration of Independence in 1948 reaffirmed these very commitments to these principles. But our nation's connection runs way, way deeper, because anyone who's read American history knows that the revolutionary ideas expressed by America's founding fathers sprung from their faith in and deep understanding of the Hebrew Bible, the Tanakh. They were very learned, and they founded America on the very principles of the Bible. They saw the Bible's insights into human nature, civic virtue, social order, and political authority as essential to the establishment of this new great nation in America. Being decent, being good, discerning between good and bad, respecting our parents, respecting elders, helping the weak, and applying justice. Likewise, it was the vision of our ancient prophets that the scattered exiles of Zion would one day return to the land of Israel. My dad's family reached America from Europe in the 1850s. In fact, they reached San Francisco because my ancestors were on the gold rush. Didn't really work out well. And it's the depth of these shared ideals and shared identity that binds our nations together in the unbreakable bond. The bond is expressed both in times of peace, joy, and happiness, like these good, happy days right now, but also in times of difficulty, danger, and tragedy. America has had our back, and we always try to help out when we can. Most recently, the aftermath of the heartbreaking disaster in Surfside, Miami, revealed again the strength of the solidarity and partnership between our two countries. Our hearts go out to all those who lost loved ones and those who have yet to locate precious missing family members. It's tough to fathom. Right away when it happened, we called up the governor, the mayor, and sent over folks who could help out, because that's what friends do. We help each other. And we stand with you all. As the Prime Minister of the new government in Israel, which is the most diverse coalition in Israel's history, we've got 8 different parties, left and right, Jews and Arabs. It's not easy, but it's working. It's working because there's a spirit of goodwill. And when there's trust and goodwill, it can work. So I stand committed to making the bond between us even stronger. by expanding our already strong strategic cooperation in the face of any threats to our people's security, building even more robust economic and trade relationships. You know, my own company, which I founded 20 somewhat years ago, was founded already as an American-Israeli company. We didn't start in Israel, and so that's how companies now are born together. Took a while to work out the joint mentality. For example, I have to tell our American friends, Israel has unique physics, right? It's the Holy Land. In Israel, when an elevator opens, you can walk in even before anyone walked out. Did you realize that? There's this miracle. I remember, I got to tell you this story. So one time, I was the CEO of this company in Manhattan, hired a good guy, his name was Brian Durman, American, and I was on the phone, and Brian walks in, and I'm talking, and I say, and he says, Naftali, I don't know what that means. What does that mean? And one more thing for Americans to learn how to work with us. In Israel, it's impolite to allow the other person to finish his sentence. You have to interject, right? You gotta. We're gonna work together to make this grow more and more. We're doing amazing stuff, great startups, great work together. We're gonna work with the new administration in America and with Congress to upgrade our friendship and partnership. And I had such a warm discussion with President Biden, and I'm sure he's going to be an amazing partner in this endeavor. In his decades of public service, President Biden has always proven not only his commitment to the American-Israeli alliance, but his true love to the Jewish people. You can't miss it, and we appreciate it. You know, Israelis across the political spectrum are fundamentally pro-American. We like America. We appreciate, we admire what you're doing out there. And that's the way it ought to be also in America vis-a-vis Israel. And I'll challenge any attempt to make America a partisan political issue in Israel, and any attempt to make Israel a partisan political issue in the United States. Our policy is bipartisan. We're friends of everyone, because the friendship between our two democracies will always transcend party politics. Michael, please pass on to President Biden, to Vice President Kamala Harris, and to the administration my very best wishes for your Independence Day. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless Israel. And may God bless the remarkable and enduring friendship between us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. It's now my honor to introduce Congressman Gregory Meeks, now in his 13th term serving the 5th District of New York. And it really is a special honor because that district represents Queens, which is where my father grew up. Congressman Meeks is chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee and is the first black member of Congress to serve as chair of that committee. Moreover, this is his first overseas trip in the role of chairman. So please join me in giving a warm welcome to Congressman Meeks.
Thank you. Let me start out by saying that the district that I represent in Queens, I dare say most of you who have traveled at least to New York have had the pleasure of being in my district. You say, why is that? I represent JFK Airport. So when you come through there, I welcome you to the 5th Congressional District. I'm absolutely delighted to be here today. And I want to start out by thanking Prime Minister Bennet. We've met previously, but I wanted to make sure, along with our delegation, that we were here. And this is the first official congressional trip since the pandemic. And I don't think that there is a better place for that first delegation to be, and my first trip as chair of this committee, than right here in Israel with you and your administration. And let me thank the Chargé Ratney for, you need a special individual. And he said he might be here for a short term, but it is that short term, someone that can be the bridge to the next ambassador here, who can make sure that in this time that there is the appropriate handoff, because you know in a relay race, if you drop that baton, you lose. So he is able to grab that baton, hold it, and take the lead when he passes off that baton to our next ambassador. Thank you. And I want to assure the Prime Minister that he does not have to worry, that the United States of America, the United States Congress, especially the United States House of Representatives, we're not here and strong with Israel because of politics. We're here because of values. And Israel and the United States and the United States Congress, we share the same values. So that is an unbreakable bond between you and us. And I'm delighted to be here with a bipartisan delegation. We could have had many more members who wanted to come. That's how important Israel is to the members of Congress. And I want to shout them out because I'm so proud of them and what they represent and what they do. The chair of the Middle East Subcommittee on the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Ted Deutsch. David Cicilline from Rhode Island. Andy Barr from Kentucky. Abigail Spanberger from Virginia. Sarah Jacobs from California. Kathy Banning from North Carolina. Nicole Melitakis from New York. Brad Snyder from Illinois. And French Hill from Arkansas. So when we come to Israel, we don't come as Democrats or Republicans. We come as members of the United States Congress. It is my firm belief that we're here at a historic time. And sometime when the camera of history is rolling, as it is now, and you happen to be an actor in that history, sometimes you don't even realize it. But I gotta tell you, I know when I look at the most diverse administration in the history of Israel, we are living in historic times. And it will make all of us have a better tomorrow. We're here because we want to make sure that we extend those friendships and let the world know that that friendship and that bond with Israel is forever. And no one will come between it. And we will be working together. We're here to make friends. We're here to talk. We're going to make friends with the Israelis. We're going to make friends with the Palestinians. We're going to make sure that we work collectively together, that Israel is safe, because we understand those who are not willing to acknowledge and understand that our friend Israel is here forever. Those who call for its demise will see that it is justice and values and democracy that will long survive them, and we will make sure that they are no longer in the way of a strong Jewish state. So let me make it plain. We're going to lock arm in arm with you, Mr. Prime Minister, to make sure that Iran doesn't get its way. We're going to lock arm in arms with you to make sure that Hamas doesn't get its way. We're going to lock arm in arms with you to make sure that the historic moment that is upon us with the Abraham Accords, that we get more people to join and say Israel has the right to exist, and we're going to work with them hand in hand. It's a historic moment today. And it's going to take all of us to speak out and to stand up. Now, I will close with this, because it's kind of personal for me. You know, with democracy, things go up, things go down. Democracy is tough. Elections are tough. We've got 2 new administrations coming out of 2 tough elections. Israel and the United States. It's not easy. We've got people that come up with documents that long exist, and maybe they could not have even seen what the future was. But I stand here today, as indicated, as the first African American to be the member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. But I'm not, and I'm proud of the fact to say, that I would not be standing here today if it wasn't for my Jewish brothers and sisters standing along and working with Dr. Martin Luther King to make America a better place, to turn it around and say we're going to stand for what's right. If it wasn't for my Jewish brothers and sisters with thoughts and ideas and the values that they have, I would not be standing here today as a member of the United States House of Representatives. So I owe a deep deed of gratitude and thanks to my Jewish friends here in Israel and all around the world. And I say that example because for people of color and people of the Jewish faith, we know what it feels like to have the world against you at times. We know what it feels like to be oppressed. And so who better to come together to lead a world and economy to say we are going to be better? It's not going to be easy, for I know how significant and important this state is. In fact, President Biden was correct. He said that if there was not a state of Israel, if Israel did not exist, we would have to invent it. That's how important you are. To my friends who serve the United States and this embassy, from the State Department and from our military, I want to say thank you. Diplomacy and the work that you do is so important. You being here, I tell you as a member of Congress, and I look at, as I met and greet folks that work in this embassy, the hard work that you do day in and day out to make sure that the United States of America is represented and nation in and out. We thank you. We love you. I can tell you, every member here, we got your back. We're here to try to make sure that you have the resources that you need to get the job done, that you do, because in the end, what this is all about, it's about making tomorrow better than our today or yesterday. And I know that together we will join hands and it will be a better place for all. Thank you very much. May God bless the state of Israel and God bless the United States of America.
Thank you, Chairman Meeks. I think everyone can see why the people of the 5th District have elected you 13 times. Thank you, everyone, for your attention. Please join me now in welcoming again to the stage the talented Jerusalem Youth Chorus, who will sing Home by Philip Phillips.
البيت بيت أبونا أهلا بالحبايب
כי בבית שלי, בגינה שלי, שלי, שלך, כן אנחנו ביחד, יהיה פה חיבור מיוחד.
Hold on to me as we go, as we roll down this unfamiliar road. And though this way is stringing us along, just know you're not alone. 'Cause I'm gonna make this place your home.
Settle down, it'll all be clear. Don't pay no mind to the demons, they fill you with fear. Trouble, it might drag you down. Get lost, you can always be found. Just know you're not alone. 'Cause I'm gonna make this place your home. Settle down, let it all be clear. Don't pay no mind to the demons, they fill you with fear. Trouble, they might drag you down. Get lost, you can always be found. Just know you're not alone. 'Cause I'm gonna make this place your home.
Thank you. That was beautiful. So as we close our official program, we invite you to join us to my right for an immersive virtual reality experience to participate in key moments of U.S. history that was created by the U.S. Embassy American Center in Jerusalem. And actually, I think the entrance is to my left, but please enjoy the virtual reality exhibit. And finally, I want to thank everyone who joined us here or through live streaming at this intimate event to celebrate the 245th Independence Day of the United States of America. Please enjoy the rest of your evening, and happy birthday, America. Thank you.